Hey there friends, it's Liz from the Peacock Homestead, and in this week's video I wanted to show you I'm unboxing my cheese press, and I'm also making farmhouse cheddar, and I want to show you a quick easy homestead meal. So I hope you enjoy this week's homestead happenings. We're going to start off with a little meal prep, and I'm getting this dough ready to make sausage rolls, and I'm going to put half of it away for future pizzas. I'm going to have the recipe in the description box below for you guys if you would like to try it. So this recipe comes together really quick and it has a quick rise, so if you're in a quick pinch, I really do suggest this awesome universal dough recipe. I've used this many times when I'm in a quick pinch and I do not want to go to the store to buy convenience rolls. Not for the prices or ingredients. So what I'm just doing here is I'm weighing out the dough. I want to make sure I have 3 little equal parts, and then I am going to divide it into 2 pizza doughs, and I'm going to save the 3rd piece for making the rolls for our sausages. I made each little ball of dough around 80 to 85 grams, so it made a pretty big roll. And then when these are rising, I'm going to chop up some cabbage. I'll probably fry up about a half a cabbage and some beef tallow, add a little bit of salt and pepper, and that'll be really good. And then we'll have that with our sausages and our homemade rolls. So with the leftover sausage rolls, we made turkey sandwiches, and those were really good as well. It seems like since the nice weather's hit, I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off. I have so many projects now. I want to get my seeds in the garden, and then I want to harden off all of my plants that I've been growing for many weeks. I can't wait to get those out. I've had them outside this week for a couple of days, but we've had to keep them in because we've had really high winds recently, along with a lot of heavy rain, so it's not really safe for my little babies to go outside yet, and it's not the last frost date. I'm shooting for a week after Mother's Day. I'm just frying up these sausages, and I like to cut them down the middle to make sure they're done in the middle because nobody wants to eat raw pork. So I'm just gonna darken these up really well. I like them so they look like they just came off of the grill. And since I got rid of all of my Teflon pans and I only solely cook off cast iron, I'd have to say these are my favorite pans. So this is finished the second rise. They're nice and puffy, and I'm gonna brush them with an egg wash. And I preheated my oven to 375, and I'm going to bake these for about 15 minutes. It's always been a dream of mine to make my own cheese, and I'm so excited. I just finally got my cheese press in the mail, and I'm super excited to show you my very first cheese that I made. So I decided to make a farmhouse cheddar today, and I've also made a cheddar this week, but I had added chili flakes to it. So hopefully that'll be in next week's video. But I wanted to show you my cheese press and all my little accessories that I got. I ordered this from cheesemaking.com from the New England Cheese Making Company. So I ordered the press itself, and then I got 3 molds. I got a small, medium, and large mold, and then I believe I got some rennet and a few other things that are necessary in my cheese making journey. And I need to start making a journal so I can keep track of what recipe I use, what temperatures that I made them at, as well as what cultures that I used and all that jazz. I just like to keep track of that, and it's fun to see what worked, see what didn't. So I am super excited to start my journal and my cheese making journey. And I eventually need to get a cheese cave, because you can store cheese in the fridge, but it's not going to age well. So you need to store it in a cheese cave, and I have to start looking for one of those. I'll probably have to find a used one maybe. But I know that it has to be stored, cheese has to be stored around 50, 52 to 55 in order to age well and do all the things. But this is my cheese press. Here's the owner's manual, and I have a little mold in there to show you what it looks like. I have some animal rennet, so that's to coagulate the cheese. This is what you call a follower, and this is extra cheesecloth that I had to order. I have a thermometer here, which is definitely necessary in cheese making. And I have a little ricotta mold here for making ricotta cheese and whatnot. This is what you call a reed cheese mat to dry the cheese on. This is the smallest mold. It does not have a bottom. That might be an issue later. This is the largest mold. I've seen people put a ton of curd in there using 7 to 8 gallons of milk. This is essentially a really long spatula. It looks like a sword, but it is what I'm going to use to cut the curds. And all I'm going to do to disinfect everything is I was going to use 50% vinegar water solution. So I'm going to be making the farmhouse cheddar recipe out of this home cheese making book by Ricky Carroll, and there is so many amazing recipes in here. I'm hoping someday to make a bunch of recipes in that book. But for this recipe, I'm going to be using 2 gallons of milk, and then I have some animal rennet here, and I have some calcium chloride. And the calcium chloride actually enhances the milk's ability to coagulate, especially in pasteurized milk. And this is a mesophilic culture. I have to store it in the freezer. And this will help bring out the flavor of your farmhouse cheddar. So I'm going to get my press all ready. I disinfected it with vinegar water. And I'm going to use my medium-sized press for this recipe. It's going to only yield 2 pounds of cheddar, but that's okay. We'll start small. I got my heavy bottom stock pot and my cheesecloth that I already had washed. And I'm going to get going, and I'm going to add the 2 gallons of milk to my heavy bottom stock pot. Then I will bring the milk up to temperature, which is 90 degrees, and then I will turn it off because I do not want to overcook the milk. So I will kind of maintain that 90 degrees by putting the lid on top. I'm just letting the milk come up to temperature, 90 degrees, and then we can add our 1/2 teaspoon of calcium chloride to our 1/4 cup of non-chlorinated water. And then the next step will be adding our freeze-dried mesophilic culture. So I'm just adding the calcium chloride, and I'm going to give it a little stir and make sure I stir it really well. And then I'm going to add my mesophilic culture. With the calcium chloride, you can stir that in and just add your mesophilic culture right away. But you want to let this sit for 2 minutes because it is dehydrated or freeze dried, one or the other, and you want that to kind of dissolve and work its way in. And then after 2 minutes is over, I'm going to give it a good stir, and then I'm going to let that sit for 45 minutes to pretty much marinate and work its magic. And then after 45 minutes is up, I'm going to add my animal rennet. I'm going to add it with 1/4 cup of non-chlorinated water. And then I'm going to add my 1/2 teaspoon of rennet to that. And I'm going to mix it and incorporate that well. And then when you're pouring it into the milk, you're going to want to do it slowly and only stir for about 30 seconds because it's going to be really fast in the coagulation process. So I am going to pour that in and stir at the same time. And I'm going to only stir for about 35 seconds. And I'm going to cover that up and let it sit for another 45 minutes. And then when we come back, we are going to see if I have a clean break. And I'll show you what that is. So I actually had to wait 50 minutes. Just wanted to make sure I get a clean break. All right, let's give it a try. See how that's not sploogey? It has a nice clean break, and now I can cut these into 1/2 inch cubes, and then I'm going to put the lid on it and let the curds rest for 5 minutes, and we'll come back and I'm going to stir this and rise the temperature over 30 minutes to 100 degrees, which is pretty much at 100 degrees right now. So I'm just stirring it, getting all the big clumps because I want them all the same size for when I put them in the press. But you see how the whey is showing more, all the curds are dropping to the bottom, and it's starting to look good. Essentially, you want the curds sticking together. You're going to do a little test, and you're going to place some of the curd in your hand and give it a light squeeze. And if the curds squeeze out the sides of your hands, it's not fully done. You'll get a feel of it. You see how it's squeeging out? They're definitely not done, so it needs a little bit more time. And they still feel soft and squishy like little pillows, so they're definitely not finished yet. Once the curd has passed the squeeze test, you can let it sit for 5 minutes, and we're going to strain it. I did let this rest for 5 minutes after the 30 minutes was up, and now I'm straining it. Of course, I got the hubs to help me. Thank goodness he is a good helper. And I'm gonna let this actually drip drain in my pan for an hour, and then I am going to come back to it, but I'm going to put the lid on top so it keeps it nice and warm because I don't want this cooling off that much. We got a bunch of whey off of those 2 gallons of milk, and I'm going to let the curds drain for about an hour. But I'm going to put the lid on top and keep them nice and warm. It's been about an hour, and I'm going to unwrap these curds, and I'm going to get them all broken up a little bit, and we are going to add our 2 tablespoons of salt once I get these all in about the same size shape. For this cheese, I was going to use my medium size mold. I figured make a nice wheel of cheddar. So I'm just breaking up the curd into equal pieces because I want it to knit well, and that just means bring it all together so it makes a nice wheel of cheese. And I'm adding 2 tablespoons of salt to this recipe. I'm just using sea salt. And then we're going to get it in our mold. But first I'm going to put some cheesecloth down first, and I already washed this and I sprayed it with my vinegar water. So I just had a little Dollar Tree spray bottle, and I put half white distilled vinegar and half non-chlorinated water, and I use that solution to disinfect everything before I do my cheese making. I use it to disinfect all of my tools and whatnot, and I did spray my cheesecloth and I wrung it out before I put all the curds in it. So now I'm gonna do the first press, which is 10 pounds for 10 minutes. And you kind of want to watch the liquid coming out. If it's too milky, you're pressing too hard. You want it to be weeping lightly and have a nice clear fluid coming out. So that means you have it at the perfect pound of pressure. So I'm going to be taking it out. 10 minutes is over, and it calls for 20 pounds of pressure for 20 minutes. So I'm going to take it out and flip it, and I'm going to go for 20 pounds, but I think I go a little bit further because it wasn't weeping at all. And I want it to be pressing so it actually is doing something. So you see how my curds are still big? So I'm just going to flip it over and put it back in the press, and it's going to be for around 30 pounds for 20 minutes. And you see how I have it weeping a little bit? Perfect. So I have it on 30 pounds, and it's going to be in there pressing for 20 minutes. And now this is going to be the third press. In the book it says 50 pounds of pressure for 12 hours, but I noticed I took a peek at it in the middle of it pressing, and it wasn't doing anything at all. So I actually had to go higher with pressure. And I went from 60 to 70 pounds of pressure overnight because of course I had to take a little peek at it, and it wasn't knitting together very well. Sometimes you just have to go with your gut instinct instead of doing it step by step in the book. And I'm making sure that my cheese is weeping, of course. There's always a little bit of that whey coming out, and it is the next morning. And I'm letting my chickies out, and I noticed they're being bad girls. They decided that they're going to start, or 2 of them were going to start eating their eggs, so now they're grounded. I have a couple of fake eggs in there, and if they keep doing it, I'm going to fill up some eggs with mustard and see what they think about that. Naughty girls. All right, let's see what this farmhouse cheddar looks like. I got my fingers crossed that it knitted well because I didn't want to do that again. I'm going to take it out of the mold, and then let's do the reveal. It's looking like it knitted together very well. I'm glad I added the extra pressure. It looks like there's a couple cracks on the side, but that's okay. It looks really nice for my first wheel of cheddar. My next step is to let this sit out for 2 to 4 days and get a nice rind on it. And then I have a little net to put over it. It's a picnic saver, so my cats don't lick it and bugs don't get into it or anything. And I'll be flipping it twice a day, once in the morning and once at night, so it gets an even cure. Once it has a nice rind on it, I'm gonna vacuum pack it up, put the name of it and the date on it, and then I will let it age for a month, or you can let it go much longer for a better flavor. And I do not have a cheese cave yet, but I am gonna store this in my refrigerator. But I gave you a sneak peek of the other cheddar that I had made this week. So I can't wait to show you guys that. It is gonna be so delicious. But I'm gonna let this air dry. I vacuum packed it up. I put the date on it, and I should probably put what number cheese this is because it's my number 1 right now. And I'm gonna be starting a cheese journal, so that will be my next step in my cheese making journey. So the last thing that I wanted to show you guys is I up-potted some of my plants. These are my morning glories, and then I have some buttercup squash there right in the middle, and then over here I have some basil, and I have nasturtiums. I love nasturtiums. Those are edible flowers. Over here I have some cilantro, and right here I have some dill. I found these pots. Somebody were giving them away, and I thought it would be a good idea to grab them because I like having raised beds as well as potted plants around the house. Anything to get more plants, I'll do it. So I got all of my plants, well, most of my plants up potted that I'm putting out in my garden. So I'm going to be hardening these out. I have a whole bunch of tomatoes. I also have some lemon balm and thyme. I love growing my herbal medicine. Over here I still have a few things that I haven't up potted. I have some garlic that I started in pots, so that's a little experiment that I'm doing. But my whole window is filled with plants. Oh, actually every window in my house right now is filled with plants. And we're off to the garden. I just went into the coop. I got 3 eggs today, 2 of my Rhode Island Reds and 1 of my Bantams. So we are going to be working on the garden for the rest of the day now. Getting them all filled up, and then I'm going to start seed planting. I'll probably plant some of my beans and peas and my greens as well as some herbs. And I just wanted to thank you all for joining us today. I hope you're having a blessed week, and I'll see you on the next video, friends.